Okay, the first step to this problem, of course, is to set up your equation. You should have already read this problem a couple times. I'm going to read it out loud, and you're going to end up hearing my thought process for setting up the equation. And then I'll ask you to hit pause and solve it if you haven't already, because I totally understand it if you don't want to solve an equation you don't have a lot of confidence with. So, okay, a cornstalk is 6 inches tall and continues to grow at a rate of 1.5 inches per day. Now, when I stop there, I actually kind of have a picture in my mind of, okay, there's this cornstalk, it's peeping out of the ground, there's already 6 inches showing, and from that point on, it's growing at a steady rate of 1.5 inches per day. And yes, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking in your dreams, because only in math problems do things grow at a constant rate like this. But this is a math problem, so we're going to stay in this little imaginary land, okay? So what do I have so far as my problem goes? Well, I've got 6 inches, and I've got 1.5 inches per day. And in my mind, I'm already thinking, oh, I know about that word per. That always means to multiply. And specifically to multiply by a number of days. Oh, wait, that's my x, a number of days. Now, let's see if that holds up as I continue to read. How long will it take for the cornstalk to reach a height of 6 feet? Okay, there's the question. How long will it take for the cornstalk to reach a height of 6 feet? And well, there, that's 6 feet. That's what goes on the other side of the equation. That's the equal. Now, at the end of that, we were given a little conversion. 1 foot equals 12 inches. And the thing we need to pay attention to here is we've got two different measures of height. One is inches, one is feet. Do you think we're going to be able to use them both in the same problem like that? If you're kind of going, maybe not, you're right. We can't. We can't have 1.5 times the number of days and then have 6 on the other side of our equation, because for the purposes of the equation, it's going to assume they're the same unit. So we need to actually convert them to the same unit. So what I'm going to do, easiest way to do that, is not to convert the inches into feet, because it's not even going to be a whole foot. And I know how you all feel about fractions. So let's convert our 6 feet into inches. So what's that going to be if 1 foot equals 12 inches? Well, that will mean we need to do 6 feet times 12 inches, and that's going to equal 72 inches. So, after all that, what's my equation? Well, it's the 6 inches I already had sticking out of the ground plus 1.5 times the number of days, let's make that our x, equals 72 inches. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to go ahead and hit pause and solve that equation if that's not the equation you had on your paper before. I'm going to hit pause too. Okay, I'm back. Did you solve it? Well, if you did solve it, please check as I go through this. If you didn't, please go through it with me, and also send me a little note about what part of this had you confused, so I know what I need to cover in future lessons. So I know SADMAP. I know I always start with what's being added to the x, and since the x is over here, I need to go to the opposite side, that plus sign, and get rid of this 6 right here. So I'm going to add a -6 to both sides. -6 plus 6 plus 1 5/10 times x equals 72 plus -6. Okay, next step, cancel that out. And yes, I do definitely want to see that step where you're doing the same thing to both sides. I got a little highlighter happy over here. It's really just the -6 plus. I want to see that on both sides. That's a huge part of equation solving, to demonstrate that you understand that the whole secret is you're doing the same thing to both sides. Nothing's disappearing magically. I don't want magic math taking place in this class. I want everything to be clear. So those cancel out. 1 5/10 x is left over. 72 and negative 6 go together to give me 66. Okay, now I've got to undo multiplication. What's the secret to undoing multiplication? It isn't a secret. You divide. It's the opposite. So we're going to take that 1.5x and divide it. We're going to take our 66 and divide it. What do we divide by to undo multiplying by 1.5? Yeah, you divide by 1.5. Exact same number you multiplied by. Those cancel out because anytime you have the same number on the top and bottom, they cancel out. And I can't do 66 divided by 1.5 in my head, and I don't feel like taking the time to write it out, so I'm going to go over to Desmos and do 66 divided by 1.5. Oh, that's 44. And I'm going to discover that x should equal 44. Now, before I go back up and answer the question, let's check that out and make sure that's the case. So that would mean, to check, that I'd have 6 plus 1.5 times x. I think x is 44. And let's find out what it equals. 6 plus 1.5 times 44. Oh, well, see, if you use the wrong sign, things don't work so well. So I'm going back over here, and this times sign, I'm going to backspace and make it a plus, and that's giving me 72. Sometimes when things don't work out, it's because you typed it into the calculator wrong. But that checks out. So I have the right solution. Let's see what that means up here. How long will it take for the cornstalk to reach a height of 6 feet? Yes, the answer is 44, but 44 what? 44 weeks, 44 months, 44 inches, 44 days. That's why I put a little X by my days earlier, to remind myself that when I found X, I'd be finding a number of days. So that's just an example of how you might need to really pay attention to units as you're working with word problems. And it can be one of the things that intimidates people when they get into word problems. We won't be working in word problems in today's lesson, so click next, continue on to find out what we are doing.